Cam, what up, yo?
What up, bro?
What's the deal, yo?
Chilling, bro. Chilling.
How you been?
I've been good. I've been good, man. You know how this shit is, right? It's like
Oh, you already
trying to
know.
trying to figure it out, figure something else out,
Especially with all this new stuff going on.
Bro, it's like I
Yeah,
don't know. It's kind of like the Wild Wild West. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying?
But it just got a little bit wilder.
Yes,
It
it
got
did.
a whole lot wilder.
Well, I'm hoping that I can help get some insight to people that are out there. I know that you and I have been in the studio before, and I love music history. That's just what I love. You know what
Me
I'm
too.
saying?
Me too.
So,
Yeah,
being in
yeah,
the studio with you and listening to you talk about
yeah.
stories and talk about music, that makes me a fan of people. I already was a fan, but that experience really like took it to another level for me. So
Yeah, we used
I
to get into it.
hey, yeah, I
We used
appreciate
to
you
go, yeah.
for rocking with me. Shout out to Madeline for making it happen, and
Yes, sir.
let's get into some interesting things. I wanted to start off by talking about groups.
Hmm.
Um, I used to be in a group when I was in high school, and
Yeah,
my
me too.
my my older brother was in the group, and I
Hmm.
pretty much had no say, so I kind of just had to sing the part they told me to sing or whatever. But
Right.
I learned a lot from the experience.
Hmm.
So I was curious about your experience in a duo or group, because I know you've been involved in both, I do believe, right?
Yeah, I was in a trio and in a group.
Oh, wow.
The trio, we didn't really last that long. What's funny, I'm gonna post a picture of the trio. It's hilarious. We did
Yes.
we did a we did a talent show before. I mean, it was cool for me. I didn't like it though.
Okay.
I liked the duo better, only because with the trio there was me and one of the other guys. We connected like heavy musically, me and my man Todd. But we kept swapping out the third member, so it never really got to click. And that was
Gotcha.
just something we were doing, like talent shows, stuff like
Okay.
that. By the time I got into the duo, it was me and my man Brian. We clicked for real musically,
Okay.
and we were trying to get a deal. So that was a lot more enjoyable for me. You know what I mean? Because we could feed off of each other, and that was something I never really had. Like as far as musically, I was always by myself. So
Yeah. Man, that's very interesting. When you say trying to get a deal, right? That
yeah,
totally
yeah.
just opened up a whole nother
Oh yeah.
bro. So like I remember being a kid and grabbing CDs and looking at the back of the CDs to see what label they came out
And the
on,
address.
address, looking in
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
man, trying to get around the whole don't submit
yeah.
unsolicited material type stuff.
Right, right, right.
So I was in Ohio, so we felt like there was no way for us to get there unless we
Right, right,
just
right.
jumped out there. But being in the big city, how close in proximity did the dream like mean to, like did you think that it was easier to do it, or how was
Oh
that
yeah.
process like back then?
It was a lot easier for me because you gotta remember I was living in Mount Vernon.
Oh,
And that was around the time, right? That was around the time Heavy D had just come out, I'll Be Sure had just come out. Puff was working at Bad Boy. I mean, excuse me, at Uptown at that time. He was working
okay,
at Uptown, Pete Rock and CL Smooth, who I was friends with. So I knew all these people.
got you.
So that I definitely felt
Man,
like I had lost you.
all right,
Okay,
cool.
he's back. I definitely felt like I had the access. Now, whether it was going to happen or not was something different. But we had and then my manager at the time, he used to work at Uptown Records. So I had like all these different layers and ways to get there. It was just the case of is it going to happen or not. So um, and then I was working with people on Uptown doing writing and singing background and singing references for Al B. Sure's artists that he was working on, stuff like that.
Okay.
So I definitely was right there where I could touch it, but it still was a struggle.
What did you like? So proving yourself to those people who were also in Mount Vernon at the time, was it just you bumped into them, or you already knew them before they got into music or talent shows? How did that go?
Well, no, I met them because I moved to Mount Vernon when I was like 15, 16.
Okay.
And so Mount Vernon is a small town, so everybody in the town knew each other. And I was the new person that didn't know anybody.
Okay.
So I just bumped into them, and then over time I got to know like a couple of people, And then that's how I gradually, got my foot in the door. But it still was a case of, at that time, none of them had labels. And
Okay.
so you could prove yourself to them, but you still had to get through everybody else.
Man.
So, like, I remember around the time when Puff was really, really starting to heat up at Uptown, he had I don't think I ever told this story. I talked to him about it one time recently, though. He was on Uptown, and this was like maybe 92, 93.
Okay.
And he had this idea for a group. It was going to be me, him, Eddie F, and G Wiz from Heavy D and the Boys, and there's one more person, I can't remember who it was, but we was going to be a 5-man group called The Truth.
Wow.
Signed to Uptown, and then he left Uptown, and then he just started doing his own thing, and I started doing my own thing. But that's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So like going through the process of getting a deal, even doing things like you talked about doing references, you talked about
Hmm.
writing, you talked about singing background, that
Hmm.
that feels to me like being groomed. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and I feel like um, you don't hear those stories a lot anymore with the new young artists that are coming
Right,
out.
right.
And that kind of falls into like a question for me that I have for you about artist development. Because I
Hmm.
know there are people who are tuning in who are interested in the music industry that
Hmm.
have their own perception of what roles are and this and that. And I know
Right.
that the position and the talent as a label entity or part of the label is kind of
Hmm.
come and gone or whatever. But I
Right,
want to know from your perspective, even and as an artist who had an A&R, I'm presuming, I don't know for sure,
right.
but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so what can you break down artist development for me and the
Well,
people?
my experience with artist development is a lot different than probably most artists because, like you said, I was being groomed, and at the time I didn't know it. I thought I was just hanging out with my friends and working, and they was teaching me stuff.
Yeah,
But looking back, yeah, there's so much that I learned about songwriting and song structure and all that type of stuff, and just performing, just from being around those people and just hanging out. Sometimes now looking back, it's times I thought we were just hanging out shooting the shit, but nah, they were teaching me a whole lot.
wow,
And when I got signed to Def Jam, when I did get my deal, the artist development part was a little different because my A&R happened to be my best friend of 30 years, who was with me from when I first started trying to get a deal, and then he came in as the A&R with me.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And so it kind of wasn't an A&R. It was kind of like how we've always been. Like, I'm like, yo, I got this. It's JoJo Brim. I'm like, yo, I got this song. He's like, yeah, that shit is trash. I'm like, oh, okay. That it was just like how me and him always do, which kind
got
of
you.
eliminated. Now imagine if that was somebody I just met. That could cause like some tension
Yeah,
because it would literally be just like that. Yo, that shit is trash. Or I'd be like, well, the song that you gave me is trash. Fuck you. Like, what I'm saying? We have different conversations. And you can do that when it's your best friend.
yeah, man,
Um, but I think the best case of artist development that I've heard of was that Motown system, where they would send you to finishing school, choreography, media training, like all of that stuff. So you was all the way polished by the time you got, what I'm saying, to your goal. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? You knew the ins and out. They knew what to say, what not to say, how to walk, how to talk. That definitely doesn't exist anymore.
At the time in the Def Jam system, was A&R mainly about the records themselves, or was it?
Yeah,
It
it was. Well, you got to remember when I was there, it was on the only R&B artist on the entire label was me and Montel Jordan.
that's right. That was Def
Yeah,
Soul, right? Or
yeah.
no?
Well, it wasn't even Def Soul yet. We were
Wow.
just signed to Def Jam. Like that. That was it. It was just me and him. So they were still trying to really get into R&B and learn. And us being new artists, we trying to learn too. So it was kind of
Yeah.
like on the fly. So
Did that help make things better in terms of trying things? You know what I'm saying? Did you have more flexibility when it came to that?
I had more flexibility to try things, but the downside of that is them being a hip hop label. A lot of things that I would try, they wouldn't get.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because they coming from a hip hop perspective, and so if you try to do too much that's outside of their realm, because they don't do R&B, like you can lose them. You know what I mean?
I got you. Wow.
So
That's a very difficult thing to
yeah, yeah. But what it did teach me is how to navigate stuff like that.
Okay.
Because even with the public, a lot of times, like you can have, and you know, you crazy creative too. Like you can think of something, and it'll be the dopest thing in the world to you, but to the average person or to someone who's into your music, they might not get where you're going with that.
Yeah.
And so you kind of have to learn how to, okay, I'm gonna do this, but I'm gonna do it a little bit different so it's more palatable. You know what I mean?
Man. Yeah, for sure. I I'm gonna ask you a question about tone
Hmm.
because you have a distinctive tone.
Hmm.
Like, I mean, you can recognize your voice in a second. Um, how do you feel like you came to your tone? Is it from influence? Is you like what?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think well, of course, a lot of it has to be natural with anybody's tone,
yeah,
but a lot of the way that I use my tone is
yeah.
definitely from influences, whether it be Stevie Wonder, Donny Hathaway, Marvin Gaye. That's definitely influence commission, you know, all of that stuff, and you grew up listening to that stuff and emulating that stuff and trying to sing like that,
Yeah.
and it influences the tone of your voice because
And
you
so,
kind of trained to sing in that tone, like David Ruffin and you know people like
yeah.
that. Yeah.
So then where does the line go to where now you know you're discovering like your voice out of the influence? You know what I'm saying?
Well, that didn't happen for me until my second album, between my first and second album, because
Ah,
until that time, I was because people would say that my tone and KC's tone was similar, and you know, to the average person at that time, they didn't know to say tone. They would just say, "Oh, you sound like," or "You're trying to sound like."
yeah, right.
And so I was in a constant fight of trying not to sound like that, but having the same influences and having the way that I sing naturally. So it was a constant fight. You know what I mean? And I had a conversation. I was telling the story the other day. One day, me and KC was sitting in the car. Me, him, and it was somebody sitting in the back seat. And I'm playing a new song I did. Nobody's ever heard it yet. So we listening, chilling. He's singing along with it. And at the same exact time, the record did an ad lib. He did the same exact ad lib. And the girl in the back was like, "Yo, you heard this before?" He's like, "Nah, that's just what goes there. That's what feels like it goes there." And it like tripped all of us out. But
Wow.
he did the same exact ad lib I did in the same exact spot. And he said to me, he was like, "Don't worry about people saying, yo, we have the same tone or we sound like a." He was like, "You sound like you, I sound like me. We both dope." And he was like, "You can't help how you sing. You sing how you sing. So just let go and just do it." And between that and producers that I really looked up to at that time would come up to me and talk to me about my tone and my voice. And I'm like, okay, so they like what I'm doing. So that helped me kind of shed that whole stigma of trying not to, you know what I'm saying, to being so conscious of it. Because it's hard as hell to sing. You know that when you're being conscious of how you sound.
Yeah. I'm like,
Yeah,
I still, find myself trying to make sure that I'm like, it takes a second. I didn't realize that it did, just because it sounds good doesn't necessarily mean that's the final,
right, right.
thing. So
Yeah.
it's a journey, like, because I mean I'm influenced by a lot of people as well, but like the whole falsetto thing for me,
Hmm.
it got to a point where I was like, man, I gotta back up off of using it because I don't want to. But then I'm like, man, that's part of my,
If that's what you feel, yeah, you
yeah,
gotta go with what you feel.
yeah,
And then that's something that I learned. It's like a lot of it is a lot more to do with a feeling than it is with a sound anyway.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, so
yeah,
and people don't realize that. That's why a lot of artists that you or I might listen to and be like, well, they can't really sing, but it feels right. You know what I
yeah.
mean? And that's just what it is.
I I remember might have been 5 years ago. I was listening to a radio interview you did.
Hmm.
Um, you were either on Sirius or something like that, and I was tuning in, and you were talking. I believe it was about Smokey Robinson, and he called
Oh
up.
yeah,
He
yeah,
called
yeah.
up, and y'all were talking. I'm like, it was like right around the time of Heaven's Door. So
Right, right,
I'm
right, right.
I'm like tuning in to everything,
Man,
and you on there. Smokey Robinson calls the
yeah,
station, and y'all are talking, and I was
yeah.
like,
That was
I was
crazy.
looking up to you, and I saw
Yeah.
you give the reference to Smokey, and it was a moment for me. You know what I'm saying?
But
So
what's crazy, they snuck me though, because they didn't
really,
tell me. Yeah, they didn't tell me. What happened was me and Yeah, that was on Lenny Green's show in New
Okay.
York. Yeah, my man Lenny Green, and we were just talking off the air about songwriters that I look up to and stuff like that. And I was like, well, the my top my top three songwriters is definitely Smokey Robinson. Smokey Robinson is like probably if he's not the dopest songwriter, he's definitely in that top three. And
Definitely.
so we were talking back and forth about that, and I think I went to the bathroom or something, came back, and so we picking up the interview. He's like, so we got a call on the line because we were taking callers at the time, and then Smokey Robinson. I'm like, are you shitting me? There, I can't. If you said you heard, I can't even talk. Like all I could just keep saying was wow, like wow, like it was crazy.
Man, well, do you think there's that same type of reverence from generation to generation when it comes to male R&B specifically?
I don't think. Well, I would say we're both, but male or female. I think that a lot of times we, as a culture, we tend to, and it's not just R&B. It's hip hop too. Our culture tends to go, okay, that person is not on the radio all the time, so they're washed up, or that person is that they washed up, or we also go the other way too quick. We're so quick to call somebody a legend or to call a song a classic.
Yeah.
And like that's a cultural thing because if you notice in rock and roll, they don't call the Rolling Stones washed up. Rolling Stones, they put out album how long? They don't call, what I'm saying? They don't call those people what. That's something specific to our culture that I noticed. To the hip hop too, they do the same thing with hip hop.
What is it that, because I feel like, part of being able to continue a legacy and have it be,
Mm-hmm.
you know, on a high level comes from those types
Yeah,
of moments. Sometimes you get a moment where you're in the studio like you were one of the first placements I ever got in my
right,
songwriting
right,
career.
right.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's one thing to be able to co-write with you, but it's another thing to be like in the studio when you're recording the final
Right, and we
master and
doing it.
everything like
Right,
that.
right, right. Yeah.
That's a different experience. Not everybody gets that type of experience, and you automatically get influenced by the conversation.
Right, right, right.
But there's, we're such at a distance, creating music and just doing
Mm-hmm.
our thing.
Mm-hmm.
Those opportunities to kind of meet, people who've been established at it
Yeah,
and been
especially
successful.
nowadays. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, just trying to get that perspective on what I guess if there's a possibility for that to change or if a cultural thing like that is just going to stay that way.
Well, no, I think it's starting to shift. Well, I've noticed a shift anyway. Like over the past few years, I think there's been like 8 songs that sampled my music.
Wow.
I just cleared 2 more samples last week. 2 more. Somebody else sampled "Touch Me, Tease Me." Somebody else sampled "Happily Ever After." Um, and so like I saw this dude on IG.
Okay.
Somebody sent me a video. He had sampled "Missing You" and did an interpolation of it, and it was dope to me. So I had him send it to me, and then I went in my studio, jumped on it, sent it back to him. You know what I mean? So stuff like that. And I mean, I ain't know him from Can of Paint, but I just thought he was dope. He was a dope young dude.
Yeah.
He sent me some of. I jumped on like 2 songs for him just because I thought he was dope. So
Wow. Yeah. That's the way to do it then.
yeah, yeah.
Um, I was doing my research like I do, and I, you know, obviously Touch Me, Tease Me, right? But
Right, right.
I'm like, let me dive a little deeper, and I saw that it was recorded at Quad Studios. Is that true or no?
Touch Me, Tease Me.
That's what the internet is saying. The
Nah.
internet could be
No,
wrong.
no, 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 no. We recorded "Touch Me, Tease Me" at I was on a production label and we recorded at Kenny Smooth's house. Um,
Mm,
yeah, we recorded at Kenny Smooth's house.
okay.
Um, I'm trying to think that we re-recorded maybe. No, you know what? That whole first album was mixed at Quad.
Okay.
It was
Gotcha.
mixed. Now I recorded a lot of my second album. I think I recorded most of my second album at Quad
At
Studios.
Quad.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So let's say even going in and out and being around that whole studio
Hmm.
in the mid 90s,
Hmm.
uh, what was the environment like? And I'm curious to know because of the history related
Right,
to
right, right.
hip hop. You know
The,
what I'm saying? But I'm want to know specifically more so from your perspective, either the
it
studio
was
and overall in the
the
sense of
overall
R&B.
environment.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, the studio was fine. It was like any other studio because that incident that you're referencing was just an isolated incident that happened there. Now the
Okay.
environment then. was crazy because you had the whole that they were starting the whole East Coast West Coast thing was
Yeah.
going on. It was like a lot of tension going
Yeah.
on. Um, and what's funny, ironically, I was in I had a show in Vegas, um, and we got there, and they was like, they were supposed to come get me. I was like, well, I'm gonna take a nap till showtime, and so I woke up. It was like maybe 9, 10, 11 o'clock. They were supposed to woke me up at 7. So I'm up and I'm like, I don't know what's happening. Nobody coming to get me. So they finally come get me about 1 in the morning. And like what the hell happened? They was like, yo, Tupac got shot.
Oh,
On
wow.
Yeah, because we had a show that night. And I forgot what the club was. But yeah, so that happened that night. And then a few months later, I was at the Peterson, and I remember talking to Big, talked to Puff, Stevie J, talked to them, and then I went outside. The party was over, and I'm standing under the little breezeway talking to Missy Elliott, and then we just saw the whole crowd start. Well, before that, I went to the car because there was another party going on, and Big said he didn't know where it was at. I'm like, I don't know either. He was like, well, we just gonna get lost together. So I'm like, I'm gonna go get my rental, and I'll meet y'all back here. So I'm standing there on the way. I run into Missy Elliott. So we sitting there talking because I've known her for a while, and the whole crowd starts running. So me being black, I ran. Me and everybody with me, we ran. And as we run, I'm like, what happened? And my homeboy was like, my homeboy and my brother was like, yo, niggas was shooting. I'm like, I didn't hear no shots. He's like, well, niggas was shooting. I'm like, all right. So we jump in the car, come around, and we see everything. We go to the other party, and the party was rocking. It was a Trackmasters party at a house in the hills, and so the party was dope. I ran into Jadakiss for the Locks, who I knew since he was like a kid. And I was like, yo, I'm hearing something happened to Big. And he was like, yeah, I hope it's just a rumor, because he has an album coming out. So I'm like, okay. And then out of nowhere, the party just got completely silent. And Clue was DJing. He's like, yo, everybody, we got to go. Party cleared out. I never seen a party empty out in complete silence. Like
Wow.
it was the craziest thing, but it's just crazy. I was there both of them nights.
That's
So it
crazy.
was like a real tense atmosphere. It was definitely a tense time.
Man. Just
Yeah, it
thinking
was
about
crazy.
it, like,
Yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy. It was crazy.
but Quad wasn't like mainly a rap studio or anything.
Nah,
Everybody went there.
everybody
It's
was there.
popular. Got
Yeah,
you.
everybody was there. Yeah, you can run in all type of people in quad. It wasn't really a hip hop studio.
Okay. Wow. I when it comes to radio and like
Hmm.
charts and all of that, there are a
Right.
lot of there's a lot of talk about. I mean, I've heard a lot of things. Let's just say
Hmm.
myths, some legends, some truth. I don't know the difference
Hmm.
mainly, but especially when it comes to trying to get higher up on the charts
Hmm.
and what happens when and this and that.
Hmm.
Um, it's hard enough to get a top 5 song or a #1 song even one time, but
Yeah.
considering that you've been able to do it on multiple occasions,
Hmm.
um, what changes for you as an artist when you break, let's say, a top 20 mark or a
Hmm.
top 10 mark? What changes, like in life as an artist, like for you?
Uh, well, for me, it was like there was Touch Me, Tease Me, and then that one almost went #1, but the Crossroads was #1, and that shit wasn't
Okay.
going nowhere. The cross every week it was like, okay, it's #2 with a bullet, then it dropped down. The Crossroads wouldn't go away, and so
Gotcha.
that killed it. But as an artist, I don't think anything really changes. I mean,
Yeah.
unless you allow it to. I think
Okay.
what really changes is the way that people view you, and I don't
Okay.
mean the public. I mean, like other producers. So there
Okay.
may be people that you wanted to work with, but they're not really paying you no attention. But once you get like a #1 song, a #5, top 5 song, um, now you got their attention. You know what I mean? Because they're paying attention to you. Like nobody's paying attention to you when you're way down on the charts, and you're a new artist. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So from the popularity standpoint, though, of having records that go into the charts, even well, I guess after the first time, I guess you get used to it. It is you can only have one time to go you
Yeah.
know, all the way up there. But I mean, I'm sure you appreciate every time it
I mean,
does.
you appreciate it, but what it does, what it did for me, I was like, okay, now comes the pressure.
Yeah, right.
Now it's pressure to do it again because I mean, you don't want to do it and just do it once. Like I never wanted to just okay, I got a hit record. I'm happy I did that. Nah, now it's like okay, now you got to do it again, and then you got to do it again, and then you got to do it again. So
Did
that's the
every
pressure.
did every one of them that like let's say Missing You, for example.
Hmm.
Uh First of all, shout out to the record. The record is
Oh, the
crazy.
record,
Just
the
even
record.
from this when it comes in, Tim and Bob, obviously
Oh
y'all
yeah,
combination
yeah. Tim and Bob is the
ridiculous.
truth.
So I was curious about that record and the others that have done that well on
Hmm.
radio. Uh was everybody always like, oh yeah, that's it. That's we got a bull right there. For
Nah,
real?
I'm gonna tell you, I hated Missing You. I didn't want to do Missing You because I didn't
Wow.
like the demo. I
Okay.
didn't, I didn't like Missing You. And then to make it worse, I was sick when I recorded Missing You, and
Wow.
so I was sick that whole week. I had lost my voice, and so we flew to LA, and I was supposed to record Missing You on, I want to say Monday. Got
Okay.
there Sunday night, woke up Monday, voice was gone. I think I fell asleep under the AC, something stupid. So I'm like, okay. So you know how we do. I'm all day. I'm drinking stuff, trying to get my voice back, and then like on Thursday night, it came back. Like
Okay.
Thursday in the daytime. I was like, they was like, cool. So we'll do Missing You on Friday. So now my happy ass, thinking I'm better, I go hang out. Me and Ja Rule, we go hang out. We go to some clubs, and when we leave the club, we go to the studio and we do Living It Up. He's like, y'all got a song, so we do Living It Up. Well, next morning, I come in like 5 in the morning, thinking I'm good. Wake up, voice is gone again. So I'm like, damn, I should have just stayed in the hotel. So now we get there, but it's like, if you don't do it today, we're not gonna be able to do it. It was a time constraint thing.
All right.
And so they said, I was like, all right, well, we can go and try, but I don't know. I can't sing. I was like, I can't. And he was listening, he's like, yeah, he can't hardly talk. So I'm hearing him like whispering and stuff. Niggas like, okay. So we get to the studio, Tim and Bob is there. They're like, yo, what up, blah, blah, blah. So he's like, just stop talking. So they was like, yo, his voice is gone. So we just gonna try to get as much as we can get. So I went in there, sang it down one time. He's like, can you do it one more time? I'm like, come on. Sang it down the second time. At the end of the second time, I felt it. You know that feeling when you can tell that if you try to stretch a little bit, they ain't nothing gonna come out. So I was like, I can't sing no more. I can't sing no more. And I'm telling them, but their heads are down bobbing. And I'm like, okay, it's gone. So I walked out and tapped him on the shoulder. I'm like, it's over. And that was the record. So I sang it them two times. I'm like, I hope we get it these two times, because if not, we gonna be asked out.
That's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah, we'd have been asked out.
Wow.
Yeah. And what's crazy is both of them records, Living It Up and Missing You, got nominated for Grammys that year.
Yeah. I'm like,
Right. Go figure. And Missing You was the biggest record that I ever had.
yeah, that joint went #1 on R&B and top
And it was
five.
number 3 pop. Number 3 on the pop charts. Yeah. Crazy, right?
Going top 5 pop is top 3 pop is.
Yeah, that one surprised me. That one, but when I heard it, I kind of felt that because it had like a Joni Mitchell type of thing going on in the verse.
Yeah.
So I understood probably why it did good in the pop chart, but I wasn't expecting that because I never tried to make pop records because in my opinion, that's a that's a death sentence trying to do that.
Yeah.
So I always try to stay away from doing that. So, but yeah, it was number one for a few weeks on R&B, and then number 3 pop. Go figure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all you can say.
How for guys like me, who are trying to ascend to a certain point in terms of commercial success, let's say,
Hmm.
how do you keep it all in perspective then when great things happen like that? Is there a point where you like what is enjoying it too much? You know what I'm saying?
I don't think you can enjoy it too much. I think that I think it's all in your mind. It's what mindset that you have, what space that you allow yourself to get into mentally. Like I was never the type to enjoy stuff too much because I was always scared that what if I can't do it again? Like I was always I used to be a worrier like you wouldn't believe. And so I would do it, and I'm like, okay, now what? Like, you know what I mean? So you got to take the time to enjoy it.
Yeah.
I think it's all a mindset though. Like you can't, you can't let it take you too high. You can't let it get you too low, no matter what it is. You know what I mean? You always have to remember why it is that you started doing it. Like for me, I didn't, like, that's why I didn't get that mad when I didn't win the Grammy, because I'm like, I wasn't doing it to win a Grammy. I wanted
Yeah.
to make music that in like 20, 30 years, people would still want to listen to. And so now don't get me wrong. I wanted to win the Grammy, but that's not why I was doing it. So I didn't let that get me too low. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now I don't know
Man.
how high I would have got if I'd have won it, but yeah, listen.
Yo, that's an interesting perspective, yo.
Hmm.
I feel like I don't know that I could be as disciplined. I
Nah,
might.
you could. Nah, you
You think
could.
so?
You could. Yeah, I know. I know you. You could. You
Yeah.
could.
What so like do people how are you able to kind of evaluate relationships that come around after, you've gotten past a certain level
Hmm.
of difficulty? How do you decipher,
Well, because
intentions?
I was always the type of person that I was never into making new friends, and I never had a lot of friends, period, in my life, because I never really wanted a lot of friends. I think people throw the word friend around way too much.
Yeah.
I had a lot of associates. I had people I was cool with, but friends, I never really had too many friends, and to this day, I don't. Like, I don't make a lot of new friends, um, because I don't want to have to sit around and cipher your intentions, really. And I've always been pretty much a good judge of people. Like, I could kind of feel people. A lot of times I would have people around, and people around me would be like, "Yo, I yo, why you got you know him, blah blah blah." I'm like, "Nah, he good." Look, how you know? I'm just trust me. And it never was a bad thing.
Yeah.
But I was never really too big on having too many friends, quote unquote.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it's But like I said, I'm good at kind of feeling people out, and people usually reveal themselves pretty quick.
Yeah. Is that the best way to be as you come up in the industry, just to kind of have a circle and keep it the same way? You know what I'm saying? Or,
Yeah, because if you think about it, my friends that are around me now, same they've been my friends for 30 years plus. You know what I mean? Like it's the same that same circle, 30 years plus. Like one of my managers, my mom used to babysit him when he was 8 years old. So you know what I mean? That's who I got around me.
that's
So
what's up. I saw you've done Soul Train more than once. I hate
yeah,
that,
yeah.
it's not around for me to try to get on, but what was that experience like?
It was dope. The only thing I was mad about is at that time there was no Don Cornelius wasn't hosting anymore.
Okay.
That part, because I had always looked forward to that, and he would sit in the back and watch. So, but I went over, I talked to him, whatever. So that was cool. But I really wanted to do Soul Train because as a kid, I'm like, I can't wait to go talk to Don Cornelius. The other thing I wanted to do was Arsenio, and by the time I came out, Arsenio was gone. And Arsenio interviewed me recently. He was like, "Yo, you never did my show, did you?" I'm like, "Yo." He left in '95. I came out in '96. So I missed that one. So I know the feeling. I know that feeling.
Yeah. Did they have memorabilia around and stuff like that, or on
At
for
Soul
Soul
Train,
Train? Yeah.
nah. Mm-mm.
Nah. It was all
Nah.
just new
Yeah,
studio stuff.
it was new studio stuff. I wish they did.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was something I look forward to since I was a kid. Was going up there talking to Don Cornelius. And I think when I went, I think Darius McCrary was the host because that's when they
Okay.
were rotating the hosts around. So, but I mean, at least I got to go talk to Don Cornelius. God bless his dad.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Man. So I wanted to ask you about collaboration.
Hmm.
I think collaboration always helps in
Yeah.
in a lot of situations, and definitely in music. I think I haven't seen, well, I'm just speaking for me. I haven't seen as many collaborations
Hmm.
when it comes to male R&B artists, I would say over the years,
Right.
over the recent years, as I have in the past.
Hmm.
And I was just curious about collaborating, in your opinion, like what makes a collaboration work and how has it worked for you?
Well, for me, when I collaborate, I never believed in, you know how some people be like, yo, I need to do a joint with me and so and so. I don't think it works like that because you're forcing it. Any collaboration I've ever done, whether it be Touch Me, Tease Me with Foxy, Faded Pictures with Joe, the best man, we had the record first.
Yeah.
And once the record is there, you may hear, yo, I can hear so and so. I think those are the best collaborations. But when people like it, you ever hear a collaboration, it just sounds like they forced it. I hate those. I hate those because, or you hear it like, how the hell did this? How he end up on this record? Like it sounds crazy. So I think that I think it's better to for the music to tell you
Yeah.
what it needs as opposed to trying to force something into the music.
For Faded Pictures, is that how it happened, or were you on it first? What was the story with that?
Well, no. Joe had the record, and they were
Okay.
looking for someone to be on it, and so they were. I was at Def Jam one day, and Joe's manager was there. He had played it for Lior and Lior Cohen, who was running Def Jam,
Yeah.
and he was like, "Yeah, Joe's looking. He wants to do this as a duet. We can't figure out who we want to put on it." And so Leo was like, "What about Case?" He's like, "Yeah, no, Case can't really sing." Now, at that point, only thing anyone had heard from me was Touch Me, Tease Me, which anybody could sing that. And so he said, he was like, "Oh, he can't sing." He called his assistant Kathy. He's like, "Kathy, bring me that song." So I had just recorded Happily Ever After. Nobody heard it yet.
Oh
So
shoot.
he puts in the DAT. They play it. They sit there, listen to it. He calls me in there. So I'm standing there. I have no idea why he called me in there. But I get in there and Happily Ever After's playing. I'm like, okay. He's like, so now you think this motherfucker can't sing? He's like, oh yeah, nah. So you know how Leo talks. So he was like, nah. He was like, so we can set it up. And we went and we did it maybe not even a week later we did it.
Wow.
And it fit though. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? It fit seamlessly,
It was
which is
crazy.
dope.
Is that the same? Is that the same way with like a 4-part collaboration, like The Best Man?
Well, that one, there's a lot of elements to that. First of all, Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis did that,
Oh, shit.
so they're gonna know how to put that together.
Yes, sir.
Um, and the way they do music, because I did 2 more songs with them, the way that they do music is that they'll ask you, what's your favorite song to sing? What's your favorite song of all time? What's your favorite Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis song? And you like, okay, you tell them, and then when you go and come back, they got a song that fits you. You know what I'm saying? But you got to think about who you're talking about.
Yeah. Oh,
And
yeah,
they do
yeah.
that. They do that in they sleep. You know what I mean? And so when they put that together, they had everybody's parts where they was gonna go. Like I was the last person to get there. It's like, okay, here we go. You're gonna start it off. They had already had some of it done already. So
Wow.
I mean, when you get to that level where you can orchestrate stuff like that, we're not on that level yet. So we got to kind of figure it out a little different. we got to figure that out a little different.
Wow. Do you feel like uh R&B as a whole is on the path that you would say would be on? Like, is it a technology thing that changes the sound of R&B? Is it the type of artist? Like, what is it? You know what I
I
mean?
think it's a little bit of both because I've always said, it's one of the worst things that happen to R&B music, and I'm sure you'll agree with this because you play. Some of the most classic music that I like and probably you like, if you notice sometime you'll hear or feel the drummer might speed up or slow down by accident.
Mm,
There's a lot of imperfections in them songs, and that's where the soul is in the imperfections. When everything is locked like that, it takes a lot of the soul out of the music. You know what I mean? And then the other way that the technology messed it up is that you don't have to know how to play instruments now. And so there's a lot of people who are producers who just might know 2 chords and use those same 2 chords and loop them. And now there's no where the feeling, especially for Black people, the soul is in the minor chords.
yeah.
You know what I mean? That's where the soul is at. It's in the minor chords. But if you don't know how to play, ain't no minor chords. You playing them couple of chords that you know and looping it and putting maybe a sample under or something. It takes away from it on top of it being locked like that.
Yeah.
So it's the imperfection being out of it takes a lot out of it.
So being able to continue to put out music as you have been and stay touring and everything like that, when you're creating new music in the midst of
Mhm.
those types of changes, what is it that you are listening for or looking for in something music, something musical that's
Mhm.
presented to you?
Well, I've been doing a lot of writing in recording in the crib since all this stuff started. And for me, it's not so much a sound that I'm listening for. It's like I said, it's a feeling.
Okay.
If I can feel it, even it through the mechanical stuff, if I can feel it, then I'm there. I got a song I'm working on. I started working on it the other night, and this is kind of a process that I accidentally stumbled upon. I started writing it, and I had a dope idea, and I recorded the idea, and then I left it alone. And over the past 2 days, that was Friday night. I've been thinking about it, and coming up with different stuff. And so now tonight, I got something better than that I'm going to do to it, and then put it together. So a lot of what you have to do, what I find, a lot of the soul is not going to be in the music like it used to be. Back in the days, the soul was right there. You just got to deliver. A lot of times, you have to be creative vocally to kind of bring more soul out of it, which doesn't mean singing all over the place.
Yeah.
It just means different things that you might add to it to bring it out. So that's what I'm kind of experimenting with.
So in that process of experimenting, but still kind of being restricted in terms of moving around
Hmm.
and everything, where have you caught what's been inspiring you to even sit down and create in the first place?
I mean, because there's always music playing in my head anyway, and I'm always yeah. There's always. I told that to my wife, and she was like, I thought it was normal. I didn't find out till a couple years ago that that's not normal. Like there's always a song playing in my head. Raven
Wow.
Justice, shout out, and Melba Moore. Oh yeah, Raven Justice. That's the dude I'm talking about that I heard the missing you and I jumped on there.
Oh,
Yeah, I
okay.
just see he jumped in here.
Shout out.
Um, for me, I just there's always a song playing in my head. Whether
Wow.
it's a piece of a song, whether it's a song that doesn't exist yet, whether there's always something playing.
Okay.
And so and what's crazy is my daughter came to me the other day. She's 9. She's like, Daddy, I gotta tell you something that's weird. She's like, I always hear like songs in my head. She's like, she's like, I might just hear like a little piece. And I'm like, yeah, me too. She's like, oh, so that's not weird? I'm like, nah, it's weird to mommy though. And she was like, I had this one sentence stuck in my head and I made a whole song about it. I'm like, yeah, that's what daddy does. So
So is it just about deciding which idea it is that you're going to actually take to tape, if you will, or
yeah, for me, it's the one that won't go away that I take the tape.
got you?
And then here's another thing that happens though. I may have an idea that's stuck in my head and I may forget all about it. And then I'll maybe get some tracks I'm listening to. And as I'm writing, that random 2 bar melody that I had that was in my head months ago, it pops back up. So it's like it's all jumbled around in there. And then that's pretty much how that goes.
So what's the key to longevity?
I would say stay true to yourself. For me, I never wanted to follow the trend. I never wanted to follow this is what everybody's doing. This is what's hot. This is what I need to sell records. This is what I Nah, my goal was to make music that because my parents and even me to this day I still listen to Motown. To this day I still listen to Uptown. That stuff is 20, 50 years ago. I still listen to Ray Charles. That stuff is 60 and 70 years old. You know what I mean? And that should be the goal. And to stick to that as opposed to trying to be like, okay, how can I get rich? Because if you do the right thing and you come from the right place with it, the money's gonna come.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's gonna come because eventually you'll be recognized. You'll be able to tour. You'll be able to, or even if you're just writing, you'll get published. It'll be there. It just has to come from an honest place. And so for me, is it to always stay like when we were working on Heaven's Door, me and you, and the song that I was doing, I'm like, I don't want to do what everybody. I know that's what's hot, but a lot of that stuff is not going to be around later on. You know what I mean? You want the stuff that people are going to want to hear. It might not have been the biggest record, but it's going to be there.
Yeah. Man, that's clutch. I
Yeah,
um
yeah.
I was gonna ask you, about being on the road, doing
Hmm.
shows, having that be a part of, you know,
Hmm.
the daily life, the typical thing that you do,
Hmm.
and wanting to expand your personal life in form of marrying someone and having kids
Hmm.
and having that whole thing as it relates to being a parent in particular. I don't have kids, so I'm just
Right, right, right.
curious.
Smart
Do you
man, because it's hard to do. It's hard to do both.
do you
Smart
feel
man.
like as a parent, based on your experiences that you've had in music,
Mhm.
and has that made you more lenient or more protective as a parent?
It depends. That's twofold because with my son, like I was on him. Like I wasn't super strict, but I was on him and I knew what to do. My daughters, I'm a sucker. Like I mean, it is what it is. Like, and they always, it's so bad that they even know it. Like, oh, daddy will say yeah, and I be trying not to be like that, but it's now with my son, I'm still the same way. I'm like, now that he's older, like my son he'll be 27 this year, so me
Wow.
and him are more like friends now. But when he was growing up, I was on him because I knew what to do. I knew how to come at him. I knew how to get his attention. The girls, dog, I'd be sitting there and I'd be like, why is she crying? All I said was, how was your day? Like this shit, I don't understand it. Like, so the girls, they be having me kind of jumbled up. So that I'm still trying to figure that out.
Got you. With your
Yeah,
son, once he became, once he became a certain age where you're like, yo, I
right,
think
right.
I could just shoot it straight to him, all the way from
Yeah,
the
yeah,
hip. How was
yeah.
that transition for you?
It was cool because I was always kind of like that with him. You know what I'm saying?
Good.
I wasn't the type to like really sugarcoat shit too much. To a certain extent, I did. You know what I mean? But once he got to a certain age, it was cool. The weirdest transition, though, I'm gonna tell you, was the weirdest one. The first time when we had a drink together, we went out and had drinks together. I took him to his first strip club. That was bugged out for me. Like I'm sitting there, I'm like, yo, this nigga's really in the strip club with me. And then I'm like, no, 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 don't do that. Come here, come here. I'm like, nah, nah. She gonna look at you like you crazy. Come here. This is what you do. This is what you do. Um,
Wow.
or even just going and like having a drink with him, that was bugged out to me. I'm like, yo, I'm really sitting here and we out having drinks. Like that's bugged out. So I mean,
Interesting.
it's a blessing though. It's definitely a blessing. It was just weird though, especially that first time.
Yeah. What would you tell me in terms of relationships? Like how do I stay in a relationship
They got
during
to be
this
the right.
process?
They got to be the right person
Yeah.
because they gotta understand your relationship with your art. Because for me, that is going to be your, and just from me knowing you, that's your main relationship. You know what I mean? Any other relationship, you're going to make room for it. But that's where the focus is going to be. It has to be somebody that understands that. You know what I mean? And as you get older, you'll kind of learn how to make room for both of them. But starting out, dog, because you got that focus. You know what I mean? And I know what that's like. Like you don't have time for all that other stuff. You don't have time for that. Like, you may have the physical time for it, but you don't have the mental time for that because you're so focused on a goal and so focused on creating, and that none of that other stuff really matters. And that's why it has to be the right person. They have to understand that, sometimes like I'm the type of person, like I can be cool and chilling, and maybe 2 hours later I don't have nothing to say to nobody. Like I don't have an attitude or nothing, but I'm just in my own thing.
I
You know what I
think
mean? And
that'd be my thing though, because part of me be like, you got to make sure you got somebody who was around when you were Akeem working at McDowell's. You feel what I'm saying?
but now you don't necessarily have to have that. It just has to be the right person. Because you got to remember when you was Akeem working at McDowell's, you was in a box. But as you get older and as you doing whatever, you see the whole world. So that right person for you may not be in that box that you came from. You know what I mean? So I don't think it has to be necessarily somebody who was with you then. I mean, I guess that would be cool, but the thing that people don't realize about that is that when you do make it, people always say, "Oh, people get on and they change." I don't think that's true. In my experience, I've seen people get on and people around them change.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because they notice that something physically has changed with you, so they interact with you different. They view you different. You know what I mean? And when you think about it, it's like I haven't changed. Remember, I used to do this and this and this and say this and this and that. I'm still doing this and this and saying that. Like I didn't change. You know what I mean? And so finding that person that knew you were Zakeem is not always necessarily the 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 answer. But I feel you on that sentiment, but
Okay.
that's not always the answer.
Okay. All right. All right.
Yeah.
All right. All right. I stand corrected. Uh, Heaven's Door was the album that I was able to work
Yes,
on
sir.
with you, and I was curious where the title came from.
The title came from it was at that point, that was 2014, 15 we did that.
Yeah.
Um it was you got to remember a few years before that I had decided I wasn't doing music no more. And then I finally decided I was gonna start doing it again, and I put out the Rose Experience of '09. And
Hmm.
then the next project was Heaven's Door. And at that point it was like, okay, this is like my own personal heaven. Like I'm in a situation where I can do what I want. I can make whatever music that I want to make. Um, personal life was good. You know what I'm saying? Everything was good. Like, everything is never always good, but the point I was at was like a really high place, and that's how I felt. It was like the doorstep of my own personal heaven.
Wow. I wanted to. I'm not gonna take up too much of your time, but I do want to ask you a question as it pertains to indie versus major from my own
Hmm.
personal perspective. You know,
Hmm.
when you're trying to do this, you start shooting for goals. And when we first
Hmm.
started speaking, you were talking about, yeah, we want to get signed, and
Hmm.
things, that notion is still there. But when it comes to deciding what's the best type of situation for you as an artist,
Hmm.
what advice could you give me and anybody watching in terms of deciding whether it's to go for the indie thing or to whether to try to go for something more than that? Like, what would you
I
say?
think I think the answer to that depends on the individual artist. Like, what is it that you want out of this? Because you can do the indie thing and have the freedom to make what you want. You can have the freedom to make what you want in your own time. You know what I mean? Without having that pressure of we gotta go, we gotta go, we gotta go, we gotta do it now. Um, Also doing an indie, you get to keep the majority of the profits, or you can do the label thing and you can take a lot less of the money. You can have pressure on you. You can have other people in your creative space that you may not necessarily want there, but at the same time, you may make more money. You know what I mean? Which I mean, see, the thing with independent and on a major, you could sell 100,000 independent and make $1 million. You could sell 10 million on a major and maybe make $1 million.
I got you.
Now touring, you're gonna make more money because you be like a bigger star. It just depends what you want out of it.
Okay.
Um, I like the freedom of being, like I said, of being able to make what I want when I want. You know what I mean? I could make Mary Had a Little Lamb if I want to right now and sing the shit in Spanish if that's what I feel like doing. People might not like it, but I could do that if that's what I felt like doing.
Yeah.
You're not gonna be able to do that on a major.
So what's next in terms of releases? I know you're working right now, being
Hmm.
inspired. You got the freedom.
Yeah,
Do you have you set your eyes on anything in particular? Or are you just kind of rocking with how you
yeah.
feel? Okay.
No. I actually got two separate album ideas that I want to do. So I'm kind of trying to do both at the same time. I have a couple of distribution situations on the table. So I have one album is an album like typical, it's about love, relationships. But the other one is more of a conscious album.
Okay.
And I think that the one about love relationships is going to come first because the other one is going to take more time because I want to make sure that that's exactly how I want it, quote unquote, before I don't want to put any type of rush on that.
Dope.
So
Dope.
yeah, that's where I am.
I love it. Well, man, I appreciate you giving me time, you
Oh,
know
you
what I'm
already know
saying?
anytime, dog. You know how
I'm
we
on my
do.
way up, you know what I'm saying? So
Yes, sir.
I appreciate you rocking with me early on and the wisdom and obviously the opportunity to write with you.
Yes, sir.
That kind of helped set the trajectory for me in a bunch of different ways. So I definitely appreciate that and the
No,
time.
you know, it's all love. You know,
You
it's
know
all
what I'm
love.
saying? So I want to just tell you, man, I wish you all the best. I might have to
Thank you.
slide you some tunes, some
Oh, let's go.
jams.
You
For,
let's go. Let's go. You know, let's go. You know, I'm always ready. I
so
got the setup right in the crib to lay down vocal ideas. Let's go.
okay, all right,
You know,
say
I'm
less.
ready.
That's definitely finna happen. So once again, man, I appreciate you for rocking with me.
No
Uh,
doubt, bro.
everybody out there, the homie came
Oh
through
yeah,
for me.
yeah.
You know
No
what I'm
doubt.
saying?
I love all y'all. I appreciate y'all too, man. Support all this time. Next year will be my 25th year, so I'm doing something real big for the 25th anniversary that y'all will see. So I appreciate all of y'all. Definitely appreciate you, Cam. Definitely.
For sure. Well, we'll be looking forward to you. Appreciate you once again, my bro.
All right, no doubt, B. Send me the music.
I got you. All right.
All right, bet. All right.